Yeah, but it is recording, so let's start. Hi, Ellie. Welcome to Self Care in the City.
Hi Chantel, how are you today?
Yeah, I'm doing good, good to see you. Um, I know that we've met before, we kind of meet often, we've seen each other on the weekends, so it's really actually nice to be sitting down today and just be kind of talking to you about what you do for self-care, especially when, if you're going through tough times, what it might be. So I'm just gonna kind of start by saying that when have you found yourself really needing self-care um, at times that you probably didn't expect you'd need it?
That is a great question. And I think the first thing to say is it needs to be kind of a proactive rather than reactive approach.
Mm.
So with self-care, it's like your health, isn't it? So it shouldn't just be something that you focus on when you feel in crisis mode or something really terrible happens. But Um, I actually find sometimes the time you need self care most isn't just when you're really busy, but it's when you have these periods of challenge where perhaps your routine's been disrupted and you've got a lot more free time while you start to get this kind of lingering kind of guilt feeling that you're not doing anything productive, but actually self care is something that in some ways is productive, but actually rest can be part of self-care. But you just need to find ways to look after yourself, perhaps when you unexpectedly have lots more free time and lots more time at home than you thought you would have, perhaps because you're not going to a job you used to go to, or you've chosen to start a new path in life.
Very, very true. And I think a lot of our viewers will probably relate to that. That kind of, sometimes you have to start self-care before you even you think you need self-care. So you're not just left in limbo when times do become challenging. So that's really, really true. I hear you with that one. So on self-care in the city, what I do like to do is take my guests through three different areas of questioning. So it's a 3-2-1 format. And the three starts off with three practical kind of tools that you might have or have used. Then it goes into two different insights that you might want to talk about. And then the one is whether it's a what you want to leave the audience with, or one thing that you want to leave the audience with, and you just kind of tell us what that might be in terms of today, just talking to you about self care. Is that all right?
Yeah, that sounds great.
Perfect.
Like
So,
the format.
yeah. So, my first question to you, um, were there any routines, habits, or comforts that have grounded you?
Great question. I actually think it really starts with we often feel most grounded when we have some element of predictability in our life. So
Yeah.
I think in terms of routine and habits, if you don't have kind of a structure for the day because you're not as busy perhaps as you usually are, I think first routine is sleep hygiene. So making sure that you're, getting enough rest, you're getting it at the right times. That's really important. In terms of habits, it's being really careful with all of those things that, are a challenge to do, but making sure I always find getting a lot of daylight in the morning, and it's obviously easier now than it was, is really important.
How do you do that? I think that's kind of key. Yes, we can say we got to get more daylight. I mean, I get daylight just from it waking me up in the morning through my light, but that's not what you mean, really, is it?
No, and I actually think natural daylight is so important. And if we live in, a city like London, we
Mm.
don't have that kind of like garden right outside the front door. I spend a lot of time in nature, finding those green and calm spaces. So for me, that could be something as simple as once you've got up in the morning, you know, before you even check screens or anything like that, check your phone. I actually, one of the first things I do is just go on a short walk, maybe go and get a coffee.
Wait a second.
Or
Are you saying, sorry, are you saying that before you even check your phone, you're out
well,
the door?
no, because I am one of those people who has the alarm on their phone, but I try not to go into a scroll hole or checking emails and you know, I'm checking
Oh,
lots of
God.
emails, waiting for lots of things to come through at the moment. But I do try and go on a morning walk. It's obviously difficult to do if the weather's not good,
Yeah.
but there is something so peaceful about doing that and just looking up at the sky. And it does make you feel grounded because, you know, our lives should be built around that, not just straight into screen time, whether that's working from home or jumping on the tube with your phone in your hand.
I know it's so unnatural, isn't it? The way that we live our lives is so technologically focused, and it's so, you know, other than nature or being outside or being with people. So much now is just reliant on this kind of whole, this kind of silo that we've all built ourselves around ourselves. And it's really sad, actually. So what you're saying makes perfect sense. And another question, I guess, I guess similarly along those lines, are what are some of the things that made a big difference to your day to day? And I think you've mentioned some of those, to be honest.
Well, it's interesting you say about silos. I think a really big difference to day is, I think, having meaningful connection with people. So again, it's on that kind of intersection with technology and connection. Like a lot of us are spending a lot of time every day, in a way, connecting by reading a lot of content online. But I think that kind of meaningful human connection every day is important. The way that I get that, because I live on my own, is carving out time to speak to loved ones or friends, but genuine time. You know, if you can make the time to make those regular phone calls, I think that's really important. They don't have to be long, but actually having that phone or, you know, video call connection, it's so nice to see someone face to face as well. But I think that's a guiding principle for my life, and it's not something everyone does, particularly in big cities, but it is actually having that meaningful interaction. So wherever I live, I've lived in this area for, you know, 4 or 5 years now, but actually building up with relationships with people around you and being friendly to people and just having that kind of connection is also really important as we go about our days. Now, I'm not one of those crazy people that talks to strangers on the tube, but in your neighborhood, there are so many opportunities to engage with people, and you never know where that could lead. So even this
It used to be the days when you knew your neighbors, and or you knew the grocer and down the street, and you'd have those conversations. And now, you know, I think it's coming back around again, where people really want that connection. And so, yeah, I think just day to day, really getting out there, really trying connecting with people is so important, especially when you're feeling challenged, you're feeling lonely, you're feeling like, you know, you need the self-care. And those are small things you could be doing. And so in terms of the last of the third kind of three practical questions, I think the last one is, what helped you on the days when things felt especially heavy for you in terms of self-care? What are those things that really stood out and you're like, yeah, this is so what I need?
Well, I think following on from that, staying connected to people is really important, but making sure it's the right people. But actually, I would say, because you know, we are stronger as a collective rather than as individuals, so that's important. But slightly contradictory to that, I think finding something for yourself that maybe you haven't done before or you haven't done in a while, like maybe there's a sport you used to play that you haven't, like getting back into that, but taking a moment in the week where you're doing something for yourself, and maybe that's something you already did, a class you enjoy or an activity, but really carving out that time to focus on yourself. But I find doing an activity really helps, whether that is a yoga class that I've really started doing again recently, or
Really? What kind of yoga is it that you do?
mainly vinyasa. So
Okay.
it's actually quite active. It's quite flowy. And especially if you do the hot yoga, you kind of get all the benefits of sweating out like a workout, but it feels really uplifting as well. So it's kind of really nice.
Uplifting and yoga. Okay, okay. I think I can think about that for a bit. Don't know if I'm up for hot yoga, but to each his own.
Yeah.
So
It can just makes you feel, like something great has happened. Like when you leave, you kind of have this little sort of buzz around you. So it's nice.
and that's the kind of upper that we need when we're really looking for, self-care that's going to make you get your endorphins going. So that's amazing. That's been helpful for you. Let's move on then to our two. What My first question, I guess, is what would you want someone supporting a friend to know? And someone who's supporting a friend through something they've lost or a loss.
That's a great question, which I think I can answer well. I think it's sometimes just being aware that people aren't always that forthcoming when they're going through a difficult time. So, what I would want a friend to know is, just because someone's not saying that they're not okay or that things are really hard doesn't mean that everything feels good for them. So, you'd want a friend to know that even if you stop talking about something that's really difficult for you, you still, it's still really helpful to check in with people. And even if you don't want to share, so even if I didn't want to share like how hard things are, it's even just that feeling of being seen and being asked how you're doing. And if to even be able to say not great, but I really appreciate you asking, because I think there's a tendency when people are a bit more reserved that, if you're not getting these really long and deep answers, people will just kind of stop checking in. So I think it's that whole checking in, and even if you're not getting much back, do you continue check
Yeah,
in?
I really would second that because I know that sometimes when someone's going through something, they might be just wanting to cocoon and they cocoon, but they're still aware of what's going on in the world. And so if someone is reaching out, they appreciate that reach out, but they're still in their little cocoon. So it's just harder for them to want to contact back or to do any kind of forward forward action because but they still do recognize and appreciate. So I do agree that's really really helpful for people to understand. And my second, I guess, question then, and along the same veins, is what's something you wish someone had said or not said to you?
I suppose that's the same question. Well, it's not the same question. My answer is probably related to that. So I think the worst thing you can say to someone who's struggling is to not say anything. So people are so worried about, saying the wrong thing, or if something's gone wrong for someone, like they feel uncomfortable to mention it, or they think, oh, I shouldn't sort of refer to that thing that's happened because it might make that person upset or uncomfortable. So the worst thing like somebody can say is nothing. So sometimes you just wish somebody had said so anything at all, if that makes sense.
Oh, okay.
And something maybe somebody you wish people had not said is just sometimes people try and tell you how you feel, or tell you everything's going to be okay, and sometimes that reassurance can be a bit misguided because maybe that person, even if they have been through something similar, they don't know how you're coping with it.
Yeah, that's so, so true. And I think what I'd want to then leading into the next question and under my kind of two tools, where do you think people can find even a small sense of steadiness during difficult times? Is something that you've gone to or you've used?
In terms of like techniques or
It could be techniques, it could be people, it could be places, anything that would be what you classify as something that's helped you or that could help someone else to get that small sense of just getting things a little bit back into, whoa, this is okay, I feel a bit more balanced in my life now.
yeah, I think when you feel challenged or low, it's really easy to retreat and stop engaging with the things you were doing before. So I think keeping a routine as normal as possible kind of makes you feel steady. One thing I would actually say, it's so well, it kind of sounds so simple, but even things to do with nutrition, like, making sure you're eating well. And that doesn't need to mean eating really clean, really healthy, really restricted, but just making sure you're nourishing your body, because that affects your mood so much, and making sure you're eating regularly. I think we can't understate how important that is for kind of a sense of well-being. And I know that when my emotions fluctuate, whether that's being stressed from work, whether that's something sad has happened, my kind of plans and routines go out the window so much, and you kind of forget to eat, or you're then starving and you eat no such thing as wrong things, but perhaps something that isn't great for you. So, that, I think that's quite a big one as well. And especially if you're not having to do that for other people or with other people, because then it becomes, a bigger social thing if there's more people in the household. I think that's a really important one.
So are you saying then that if you are with other people in the household, having meals together and doing things together, that's what you mean?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of people overlook the whole nutrition side of things and they just in themselves when they're going through something and their mind is just kind of not thinking about eating at the moment because they're just so caught up in their emotions and their moods. And so just having a little bit of a remember, oh, I need to eat something, it's important, and why
Yeah.
it's important, I think is really helpful. So thanks, that's really helpful for the audience, people just to remember that and to tell those around them who might be going through something.
Yeah. I think it's the first thing to go, isn't it? If you don't have that signal of, oh, I feel relaxed, so therefore I feel hungry.
Yeah.
And then you don't eat something because you don't feel like it. We have to do things that we know are good for us, even if we don't feel like it in the moment.
Yeah, and that's the thing. You don't feel like it, but you should do it. And it's hard sometimes, people are very stubborn. But it's understandable when you're going through some heavy, really challenging things like loss that you just feel like, okay, nothing really else matters, except what I'm going through. So fair enough that you do need to think about things that will help you and nourish you during those times. My last question, and the one thing that to kind of perhaps leave the audience with, is actually what's one thing that helped you that you hope others try.
I think what my answer to this comes from, when you feel a certain way, you feel like you're going to be stuck like that forever and nothing's going to change. And I actually think something that can help you move forward from your feelings is, one thing is trying something new, stepping out of your comfort zone. And that doesn't need to be going and doing a bungee jump or something absolutely crazy and extreme, but it can just be picking up something from a long time ago or doing something new, leaning back into an old habit. But that's so, you know, something you did that used to make you feel good, but it's so long since you did it. But it's leaning into things that are new and giving yourself just that small challenge, whether it's something new that's physical or mental or spiritual or learning a new skill. I think we can't underestimate how much nourishment that gives to your brain.
Yeah, I think you're right. We just are not used to kind of going outside of our comfort zone, but doing something like that really is going to retrain you, I guess, to kind of get out there, to do something different, to do something new, and that's all for the better. Always all for the better. Well, thank you, Ellie. This has really been eye-opening. It's been great to hear how you have handled things when you needed to give yourself a little bit more self-care. And I'm hoping that others will be able to say, hey, I see myself in that. And I understand now little things that I can be doing when I'm going through these challenging emotions. So thank you, Ellie. And we will talk to you all soon, Thrivers. Thanks for watching and see you next time.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ellie. Okay, I'm going to stop the recording. Oh, yeah.